We're picking up the story of Jacob fleeing his parents' home after he took the blessing that his father thought he was giving to Esau. His mother, fearing for the life of her son Jacob, sent him to her brother's house, to the house of Lavan in Haran. So Jacob is running away from his family home. He's scared for his life that his brother's going to kill him, and he runs away. And it turns out that it gets dark. It gets dark early. And the idea is the teachings are that God made the sun set early so that he would stop in the place. This place, the Makom, is described 3 times in one sentence. Is described as the Makom, the place where he spends the night. He falls asleep in this place. Before he falls asleep, he takes some stones and he puts these stones under his head. And it says when he wakes up from his sleep, which we'll talk about in a minute, that the stones that he had gathered had coalesced into one stone. Some of our commentators say that he gathered 12 stones, and perhaps 12 is symbolic of the 12 tribes of Jacob that will yet to come. And that when he wakes up from his dream, these stones have coalesced into a single stone. They have unified. They've become one. Other commentators suggest that he had 2 stones that he put under his head, and that these 2 stones represent the 2 forces that battle themselves inside of each one of us, that we have a force for good and we have a force for not good. And when these forces fight, we have to try to win over the force that takes us away from doing the right thing and focus on and use it to harness that energy to do the right thing. So we have these 2 forces, they're called the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination and the not so good inclination, that fight within us. And we need to bring them together. We need to coalesce those forces and use them for good. So one of the ideas, I think, that this idea of the stone, with the 12 stones becoming one, or the 2 stones becoming one, is an idea of unity, an idea of wholeness, that we take disparate things and we bring them together and we make them one. We could take the Jewish people and say we're fractured and we're at odds with each other and we argue each other. And the goal of the whole world is to bring it into a oneness, to bring it into a unity. And Jacob does this in this Torah portion, where he's taking the 12 stones, he's taking all the 2 stones, and they become one, they become whole. That's the goal. And perhaps that's the aspiration that we have, is to work in our little corner of the world, in our little corner of the great expanse of time, to work on wholeness and to work on oneness and try to bring that, to take away the angers and the jealousies and the things that separate us and try to bring us into a cohesive oneness and a wholesomeness. So that's one message about these stones. Jacob falls asleep, and in his sleep he has a dream. It's a famous dream, Jacob's ladder, that he in his dream he sees a ladder that goes from the ground up into the heavens, and that on this ladder there are angels going up and there are angels coming down. And it's curious that the angels are going up, not that they start off in the higher realms and come down, but they start off on the ground and go up, and then there are angels that are coming down. And there are lots of different commentaries about these angels. A couple of them I would like to share with you. One is that there are angels that accompany us, that we are surrounded by angels. When we do good things, we have positive forces that surround us. And Jacob was being escorted by these angels that were escorting him as he was leaving the land of Israel. But these angels had to stay in the land of Israel. They couldn't follow him and protect him outside of the land of Israel. So when he came to this place, as he's about to exit Israel, these angels are going up into the heavenly realms, and what are coming down are the new angels, the second band of angels that are going to accompany him as he leaves the land of Israel. So that would account for the angels going up, the ones that were escorting him as he was about to, within Israel, as he was about to leave, and then as he's about to leave the land of Israel, these angels go up and new angels come down to escort him. Another idea is that these angels are his prayers. It's a place of prayer. That when Jacob comes to this place, he encounters God. He has a prayer. He prays to God. And those prayers go up into the heavenly realms and then opens up the channels for blessings to come down. And the angels coming down represent the blessings that are coming down. So this place where Jacob rests for the night is the place where heaven and earth meet, as he describes it that way in this Torah portion. This is the place where heaven and earth meet. This is the place where Abraham brought his father Isaac in the binding of Isaac's story. This is Har Moriah, where the holy temple would be built, where there's a connection between heaven and earth. And I think it's interesting if we think about the idea of a ladder and how a ladder is on the ground and it goes up into the sky, up into the heavenly realms. So too the temple was a connector that connected heaven and earth and heaven. When we prayed, when we brought our sacrifices onto the temple, then the divine presence would come down. And it was a place where there was a meeting of the heavens and the earth at this place. And the idea of a ladder, the idea of the temple, and what Jacob does in this place is he makes a monument. He takes this stone and he builds a pillar, a monument made out of stone. It's called a matzeva. And he pours oil on it, but an idea of it being made out of stone. The word for stone is Evan, and it's Av and Ben. Those letters are 3 letters of the word Evan. If you split them up, spell Av and Ben, like a father-son, like a parent-child, like a continuity, something that's eternal. And God promises Jacob that he will be with him through everything that's going to happen, through all the trials and tribulations that Jacob will go through all that will happen to the Jewish people, that God will be with us. And I think when you think about this stone metal, the idea of a stone, the idea of eternity, the idea of continuity, the idea of eternity, that's represented in the stone. And when we put up a headstone on a grave, it's originally they were always upright ones. Now some of them are flush to the ground, but the idea of it being that it would be an upright stone, and that we would put stones on it. We don't put flowers on a grave traditionally. We put stones, because stones are permanent and stones are eternal and stones are solid, and stones represent the eternity of the Jewish people, that there will be previous generations and this generation and then the next generation. So the idea of this up and down, and that human beings are a creation that stand upright, that we have our head and our thoughts and our ideas up in transcendent realms, and we have our feet solidly on the ground, and we're linking the two. So we aspire, as much as we aspire with the stones coming together and creating a oneness of a stone, that there's wholeness and there's unity between the two opposing forces that are inside us, and we have unity amongst the Jewish people, the 12 tribes coming together as one, that we also have an idea of connecting heaven and earth, that we're bringing God down by our prayers, we're bringing God down by being godlike in the world, and that God comes down and we are the emissaries for God in the world. So when we do the will of God, when we do what God wants us, that we're bringing godliness into the world. So there's a connection that we provide by who we are in the world. So finally, one last idea about the angels going up and the angels coming down. So it says in our Talmud, in our oral tradition, that what's above is also what's below. So the angels are looking at this sleeping Jacob, and they see the image of this sleeping Jacob, and they go up into the heavenly realms, and up in the heavenly realms on the heavenly throne is a face of Jacob, and it's the same face. The face that's up in the highest realms on the heavenly throne of Jacob is the same image that they're seeing down below. And as they go up and down and up and down, they're comparing, or the image down below is the same as the image up above, and the image up above is the same as the image down below, meaning that Jacob on some level had perfected himself. He was able to be the person that he could be, that the image of who he is up in the heavenly realms is the full potential maximized. That each one of us has a potential of who we can be, and that's the image that's up above. And now it's our job in this realm to become that we want that symmetry. We want to be what we can be, all that we can be, that we can maximize who we are, and that we can be the best person that we are able to be in this world. And what Jacob shows us by this teaching in the Talmud is that he achieved that reflection, that who Jacob could be is what he was in this world. And that's an aspiration for us, to try to be everything that we can be. We won't, because we're human and we fail and we're not perfect, but there is a high bar, and the high bar is the image of what we have the potential to become, which is a whole lot more than most of us are, that we can become that, or that we aspire to be that in this life. So some of these messages that I think are coming out of this week's Torah portion, just in the beginning of Jacob fleeing from Beersheba, coming to this place that's Har Moriah, that he brings the stones, the disparate stones, there are 12 or there's 2, and making them, and at the end of his dream there's 1, that he makes a matzeva, he makes a pillar that's made out of stone, that's eternal, that's upright, like the human being is upright, like the temple is upright, like the ladder that he has in his dream is upright, and that it connects the heavens and the earth, that the heaven comes down and the earth goes up, that we have the potential to link it all together and make it one. So perhaps the thread of the beginning of this week's Torah portion is an aspiration for oneness. Oneness in the sense of peace and wholesomeness and unity and lack of friction and animosity between people, that we can bring everything together in a peaceful whole. And oneness in the sense that we can bring heaven and earth together. And oneness in the sense that we can be all that we can be. So that's the aspiration. And my blessing for us is that we continue to strive for that. We continue to try to go up the ladder, go up the ladder, bringing us higher and higher, and at the same time bringing God down into our world and making the physical world more spiritual.